So we're gonna do a little BTS, behind the scenes, on kind of what's actually happening with the home buying process with real people. We have buyers that we're gonna go on tours with, so you can see firsthand what it's like to actually see properties. We're gonna bring you along for an inspection so you can see the real fears that people have and the nervousness they have of what could come up when you're doing an inspection. We're gonna have our lender walk you through what the finance questions are, what you can afford, what are the type of closing cost questions people have, because there's a lot of questions that people have of the hidden fees that no one talks about. And we're gonna have Lisa Saul talk to you about the attorney review process, all the hidden legal questions that can really bite you in the butt later if you don't ask the right questions. And Jamie Price is gonna take you step by step through the closing process and what actually happens when a deal is accepted. So buying can seem overwhelming, and I think the biggest problem is that people don't know what to expect when they're looking to buy for the first time. So what we want to do is try to break it down step by step of just how easy this is. We're visual learners these days, and the more you're able to see how the process works, the easier this will seem to you. So the first step you should try to do is meet with a realtor, have a consultation, and kind of understand how this whole process works. Once you do that, you would want to meet with a lender to secure your financing and understand what you can and cannot afford.
My name is Ben Cohen of Guaranteed Rate. I'm a managing director here at the company, recognized as one of the top loan officers in the country, and we help first-time homebuyers, whether it's for their primary residence, a rental property, a second home. One of the main questions that I always get when somebody calls to discuss financing is, well, Ben, how much can I afford? Well, how much are you comfortable spending per month? Then I will come back and tell them what can they qualify for based on what they're comfortable spending, how much they have to put down, and that will kind of back into their price point. Another common question we get a lot is, what's the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval? From my standpoint, a pre-qualification is meaningless. It doesn't require credit pull. I don't get any documentation on you. What I really need to do is get a pre-approval, and getting a pre-approval, the difference in a pre-approval is a credit report is run, income and assets are verified, we determine what you can or can't do from a qualification standpoint, and then we actually issue you a pre-approval letter so you can start to go out and look for a home.
When you're able to see exactly what the numbers look like, this whole process will seem so much less stressful. Then you'll be put on some searches to see what's out there and get accurate information of what's out there in today's market, and get access to pocket listings, which are listings that are not on the market today, but coming soon. Once you get all that set up, you will then go on a buyer tour and start seeing properties. Because as much as they tell you you're gonna see and buy stuff virtually, it's not gonna happen that much. You wanna touch it, you wanna feel it, you wanna see if it's a property that meets your needs.
So these buyers, Nancy and Joe in particular, I had met them a few weeks back. We actually had put in a couple offers on other places and kept losing out on places, which is, a little deflating for people. So when, we found this place, it was brand new construction. It was the last unit left in the building. We got in right away. We definitely got our offer in. They had that day 3 other showings, so we had put it in, but I think they kind of learned that you kind of have like the gun to your head and you have to make the decision right away, because everything right now is just so competitive. And especially with, these new construction buildings, things are going quickly. So they were really excited that they were able to get in, get their offer accepted, which is why we put in the offer prior to Joe seeing the property. But he loved it and we're under contract and they're very excited about it. So a lot of people ask about, especially first-time home buyers, they watch all these TV shows on Bravo and HGTV about buying something and potentially renovating it. And in this market, that is not going to be very feasible. I don't think. One, you're paying a premium for the property. 2, with labor costs and material costs and everything these days. I mean, as far as timing on all of this stuff, you're going to be waiting a lot longer for a project like this to be completed.
And we start the narrowing down process. You start with a lot of different neighborhoods. You start to narrow it down to which neighborhood makes the most sense. And then you figure out which type of property fits the needs that you have the most. And then we identify that property finally. And we do what's next is we decide, what is this place worth? We're gonna have John Paul Combs, maybe Combs, we don't know how to say his name. He's gonna walk you through comparables, a comparable market analysis, which we call a CMA, to show you what the value is and how to determine an appropriate offer to put down. Steve's gonna arrange a time with you at your house, and he's gonna film you doing comps, and you're gonna talk about what comps are.
At my house?
Yeah.
Wait till I move into my new place.
No, we have to shoot this. It's gotta be a different location.
Oh, hey, what's going on? Just finishing up getting set up over here. Come on over. So, we're talking about a little bit about comps today. So, I had an idea to give a little liquor analogy. So, I'm just finishing up, and we'll get everything going shortly. So, you might be wondering why I have all these different types of liquors out. So, my analogy is essentially single-family homes and condos. Right now, the market's been super weird. So when you're comparing a product like a condominium or a single-family home, there are a lot of factors that go into determining the value. So when you're talking about condos, there's a couple different factors that go into determining the value. When you're in a high-rise or a mid-rise, we typically will go by tier. A tier is just the floor plan. It's the last digits of that floor plan. So when you're pulling comps for a condo, it's fairly black and white. You're gonna have O2 tiers that have sold the last 2 years, and it'll say, hey, this is the layout. The only thing you're really comparing the differences of are the finishes, how upgraded are the cabinets, the bathrooms, and how stuff has changed over the years. But that footprint is essentially gonna be identical. Now, if we're talking single family homes, as of recently, you could almost compare that to rare bourbons. So when you're dealing with single family homes, it's a completely different animal as of recent. So if you're looking at something that's 4 bedrooms and 4 baths, and it's in Lincoln Park, there are a lot of factors that are determining that value. If the inventory is limited, the price just went up. And that is a big contributing factor to why people are seeing these increased values on single family homes and a product that is not so often seen in the marketplace.
Of course, we're gonna look at the negotiation process, where you're gonna see you can either have a type A type of negotiation, which means that you just email it over, which does you no good at all. Option B is to present the offer the correct way, which is by picking up the phone and calling and presenting the offer. Most agents text or email offers over. So when you're buying your first place, you wanna make sure that your agent's gonna actually call up and negotiate. Because I'll tell you, we'll get multiple bids on our listings, and 2 days later, a broker will call me up and be like, where's my offer at? And I'd be like, what offer? And they say, they sent it to you 2 days ago. So what do you mean you sent it to me 2 days ago? He's like, I sent it to you, check your email. I said, I look at my email every 5 seconds. This thing's glued in my hand. So sometimes I forget you ever figure like, where's my phone? It's in your hand. That's where my phone is. So then I look at my spam box, and lo and behold, there's the offer. My client signed the offer 2 days ago. So that's the agent you want to hire when you're doing your first time buyer? No. When you're buying your first place, make sure your agent's gonna pick up the phone and actually call and present the offer.
Get lots of questions around what do I need to do to put myself in the best possible position to win the home. As everybody knows, there are multiple offers in this market. And what we try to do is we try to put people in a position where they can execute and win the deal by speed, service, and technology. I promote 10-day closes. So what does that do? That allows the customer to go buy a home, compete with cash, and close in as quick of a time, if not sometimes quicker than an actual cash buyer. As long as obviously the customer is organized, responsive, communicates, asks all the questions. When I say jump, they say how high. That's how those quick ones have to go. So it really puts them in an advantage.
If we come to the meeting of the minds of what the best price is for both parties, we will successfully enter into an executed contract.
And the contract timeframes that we need to execute. And then once we know what the time frame is, then we go ahead and start the process. We secure the interest rate, we send out the application package, we walk you through all your closing costs so you have a good idea of number one, what is my monthly payment gonna be, and how much cash am I gonna need on the day of closing.
Once we go into a contract, in Chicago, we do not use that terminology. We've opened escrow like you see on all the cool TV shows. We say that we've opened up attorney review.
My name is Lisa Saul. I'm a real estate attorney focusing on residential real estate. Welcome to my office. This is where it all happens. So today I'm going to walk you through the closing process. A buyer will sign the contract. The standard contract provides for 5 business days of an attorney review and inspection period.
Inspection day is kind of your period where you're going to be able to come through the house with your inspector and find out if there are any major issues with the home. After inspection, then you'll know, are you comfortable moving forward with this? If it's an as-is deal, typically it's sort of go with it or kill it. If it's not as-is, you can always ask the seller to either repair some things that are broken or maybe get a credit. Typically at this point, you've given $1,000 of earnest money. If you were not happy with the inspection and you wanted to kill the deal, you could get that money back.
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm an inspector. So we check all the issues, functionality of all the different systems in the house. There's like 10 different systems: roof, electrical, plumbing. We do a report for the client, and then we send it to them, and then they use it as a negotiation tool.
Once they complete the inspection, the inspector will send us the inspection report. I will get the inspection report, and the client and the agent will send me recommendations for what's important for them to focus on in terms of repairs or credits. I will then finalize a draft attorney letter, and I'll add in any inspection items that were raised in the inspection. I then send that letter to the seller's attorney. It is not until we reach mutual agreement on that response with the seller that attorney review is considered complete. Once attorney review is complete, that triggers the additional earnest money, which is usually due 2 business days after the completion of attorney review.
The inspection part can be a scary and tricky time. It's also the hardest part of any transaction because the seller wants to give you 0 and the buyer wants the world. The reality is we're gonna again have to come to a meeting of the minds, getting a few things, and the buyer and seller are both gonna have to go through a give and take. And we enter into the final phase, which is your financing. At this point, we have to make sure that your financing gets locked up, that you're gonna be clear to close, and that you're gonna be good to get a loan. And then once we get that clear to close, we schedule the closing, and then you go to close, which happens during business days and business hours.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm Matt's transaction coordinator, executive assistant, coffee runner. When you go under contract, I'm kind of your main point of contact. Normally, I send out a next step email, includes all the the contact information for everybody. And then I also share a Google Doc, which has a checklist and steps you through the whole entire process. Twice a week, I follow up with you to make sure that everything's on track. I follow up with your lender, your attorney. I make sure that you get all your condo docs. I make sure your inspection gets scheduled, your earnest money gets turned in. As we're going through the process of purchasing or selling your home, I'll start to check off all of the checklist. I'll put dates next to them. I'll turn them red. You can put comments in there. It's just like a good source of information to have when you don't really know what you're doing when you're buying a house for the first time.
At closing, it seems like it's gonna be this scary, exciting process. Unfortunately, it's rather mundane. You're gonna sign a bunch of paperwork, and then once the paperwork's signed and the money's in from the bank, you are funded and that property will be yours. See, it's not as scary as you think. Buying a home can be easy with the right tools, process, and experienced agent on your side.